Hello and welcome. In this video we're going to take a look at the Tucker class. Following on from the Scott video, this was one that was requested, so I'm more than happy to oblige. So we're going to look at the Vanity shields from the Dilithium store that are available during certain events of the year, and also the one currently available in the Zen store. As always, chapters with all the shields are listed in the description down below, along with several other links that I'll go over at the end of the video. So the first shield we're going to have a look at is the Alliance Vanity shield. So this is part of the Mutara Alliance bundle in the store, which you get the shield, the Mutara Alliance uniform, and an upgrade, and it's currently the only shield available in the Zen store. So for the shield itself, we have this white patterned hull material with the gold and grey shading. We also have the orange plasma effect there for the facade collectors. Then on top of the top nacelles and bottom of the bottom ones, we have the impulse colouring. We have this white illumination here on the front of the ship. For the nacelles themselves, we've got the cyan colouring there. Then we have the red through orange, yellow and white for the impulse engines. You see them on the inside of the nacelles as well. And then in the centre here, it's marrying up with the nacelles. So we've got the cyan and then the impulse engine colouring there in the centre. And more of the nacelle colouring across the pylons there. As with the Alliance ships and the Alliance Vanity shield, we have the triangular pattern. You can see it clearer here on the grey. Then the white material, you can see it's got different hues as the light reflects off it. Then on the underside here, we have more of the white, gold and grey shading there. But then we've also got the actual deflector effect there. This cyan pattern effect. So for whatever reason, they have decided to put the deflector on the bottom of the ship rather than at that space at the front, which I thought was quite surprising. Then for the engine trails, see standard Federation ones, so we've got that reddish orange there and that blue. So again, if they'd made that a slightly lighter blue, it would probably been a bit better, but unfortunately not. Next up, we have a Safe Galaxy Refit Vanity shield. So we've got this grey patterned hull material with some lighter grey shading. We've got the gold there for the facade collectors and the impulse engine effects here on the nacelles. And got the white light there on the front. That golden effect there for the nacelles themselves. Same there for the impulse engines. And again, the centre parts married up with the engine effects on the nacelles. And it's almost like an urban camouflage pattern as I look down. And the same there on the underside, plus that golden deflector effect there on the bottom. And for the engine trails, they do marry up very close. You know, that yellow and slightly lighter yellow. So not a bad job at all with the effects from this shield. Here we have a very popular shield in the game. So this is the Vanity shield. So we've got the black hull material, some of the cyan lighting here at the front. The red lines really do stand out nicely against this black material. And then we have the cyan there for the facade collectors with the red impulse engine effect there. Again, this white illumination on the front of the ship. Then we have the cyan lighting there for the nacelles. And as I've said on numerous videos, my favourite impulse engine effect is this red from this shield. I don't know what it is, it just looks fantastic to me. And then again in the centre here, it's marrying up with the nacelle colouring and the impulse engine colouring there. As I look down, we can see in the light here this etched pattern design within the hull material. And we can see some more of that cyan colouring here at the rear. Then on the underside, we've got the deflector effect there with the two circles in the cyan. And again, more of that etched pattern design throughout the hull material. Then for the engine effects, again it's just the standard Federation ones here. Had they made that a deeper red and then just lightened this blue, I think it would have worked really well, but unfortunately they haven't. So it doesn't match up with the effect that the shield is doing on the ship itself. Here we have the Borg Vanity shield. So this gives your vessel the look of a liberated Borg vessel, and I really do wish they'd change the name of the shield to avoid confusion, as I know a lot of people were expecting the actual black and green of Borg vessels when they buy this shield. So for the hull material, we've got this grey pattern material made up of various shapes and sizes of hull plates. You'll notice all this illumination here, the blues, the golds, the reds. So that's exposed sections of the hull. And if I zoom right in, you can see the black conduit effect underneath it as well. Again, we've got this white light at the front of the ship. Then we have this blue pattern effect here for the facade collectors, and the blue there of the impulse engines. Then for the nacelles, it's partially illuminated with the blue. And with the blue there with the impulse engines. Again, more of that conduit material effect there as well. Then the centre, you can see the blues and blacks there, marrying up with the effect from the engines. And more of that material there on the side. Quite a bit more of that conduit material there on the underside. And then this lovely blue patterned deflector here on the bottom. Now, the engine effects from this shield is it has none, which was quite surprising the first time I noticed this. You know, I thought it would just done a light blue, but nope, no engine trail effect for this shield at all. So as I always say, get your sunglasses out or dull down your monitor for the Courier Raider Vanity shield. So this is one of the older shields in the game, and not to be mixed up with the new green Courier Vanity shield. So got this almost bare metal colouring to the hull material with some black shading. And then we've got the white there for the Passard collectors, white for the impulse engines. This white illumination in the front actually marries up with this shield quite nicely. Then we have the very bright white there for the nacelles. Yeah, a lot of white here at the rear with the impulse engines as well. And again, marrying up with the centre core there. And so down, you can see as the light hits it, it does get extremely bright. And some more of the black shading here at the rear. Quite a bit more of the black shading there on the underside. And then this white almost target kind of pattern there for the deflector on the underside. Now, engine trails for this one. We've got a white flame effect there on the impulse engines themselves, but then they've went with the standard Federation ones of the reddish orange and the blue, which is surprising, and spoiler alert, that a few of the upcoming shields have all white engine trails. So why they didn't just apply that to the shield that actually had white engines and then put these effects on the shields that actually have the colours for the engines. So it's an interesting one. So here we have the Discovery Vanity Shield. So this is one of the shields in the game that has a different visual appearance depending if you're Federation aligned or Klingon aligned. So for Federation aligned, you get the appearance of Starfleet vessels in Season 1 of Discovery. So with this patterned two-tone grey hull material. With the patterned blue there for the Passard collectors and the red honeycomb of the impulse engines there. Again, this white illumination here on the front. Now we've got the blue there for the nacelles, and you see that pattern effect there as the light's hitting it. Red honeycomb effect there for the impulse engines, and again the centre core area marries up with the effects there. You can see the pattern effect from the top down. Same again on the underside, and then we have the deflector effect there. So with this white with the blue spokes going all the way around it, and then greyed out in the centre. So the engine trails in this one are white. So as I just mentioned there, doing the Courier shield, these trails should be on the Courier Reader Vanity shield, and the ones that were applied to that should be on this one. Don't know why this is the case, but that's the way it is, unfortunately. So here we have the Discovery Vanity shield on a Klingon aligned character. So this is supposed to resemble what they tried to pass off as Klingons in Season 1 of Discovery, their ships. So it's got this brown patterned hull material. This section here is totally blacked out now. Then we have the red with the pulsating white light for the Passard collectors. This very faint yellow patterned effect for the impulse engines. And we have these circles and ellipticals with the orange, yellow and white for the nacelles themselves. And we can see the change there in the centre section. And you can see the yellow and the white there for the impulse engines. As we look down, you see the full extent of the pattern from the shield material. Then the same there on the underside, and then we have that deflector pattern there on the underside. For the engine trails, they are white, which does kind of marry up with the effect the shield's applying. Maybe a touch of yellow in there would have been better, but I think we can live with that. So here we have the Discovery Refit Vanity Shield. So we've got a slightly darker greys in the two-tone compared to the Discovery one. Then we have the white here for the Bassard collectors, and red there for the impulse engine effect. Again with the white here in the front of the ship. And with the blue and white there for the nacelle colouring. And then the red striped effect there for the impulse engines. Again, the core marrying up with the engine effects quite nicely. And you can see the pattern effect there, and there's even slight bits of scarring almost within the hull material pattern as well. Then we have this blue pattern effect there for the deflector on the underside. Then for the engine trails in this one, they do marry up not too bad. Again, if that impulse trail had been more red, that would have been better, but the nacelle one isn't too bad. It's close enough, I think, for the effects that the shield's putting on the ship model. Here we have the Emerald Chain Vanity Shield. With this brown patterned hull material. With this very dull white, even a tinge of yellow to it, lighting effect. The same colouring effect here for the Bassard collectors. Same here on the front. And the impulse engine effect there's very similar. Same with the nacelle colouring. You see touches of grey there as well. And with the same for the cores there. And the impulse engines again, touches of grey and a very, very light yellow by the looks of it. Normally that looks more grey and white on quite a few ships. The same lighting effect here on the top. And then you see the pattern effect on the hull material, especially this textured pattern around here. And the same there on the saucer as well. And we've almost got a sun symbol kind of effect there for the deflector. And again, more of that pattern material effect there. Then for the engine trails, for some weird bizarre reason, it's almost identical to the Discovery Refit one. So we've got this reddish orange and this very light blue, which doesn't relate to the engine colouring at all on this particular shield. This is the Emperor's Vanity Shield. So we've got this grey patterned hull material with this purple shading. Again, the red does stand out quite nicely against the hull material there. Then we have this yellow effect for the Zhat collectors, and the cyan there for the impulse engines, and again this white at the front of the ship. Then we can also see this blue dot illumination just in the shaded part of the ship at the moment. So that's throughout the hull material. It does almost resemble the starfield at the back of it there. Then we have the yellow there for the nacelles. Again, more of that blue dot illumination can be seen. Now the cyan there for the impulse engines. Again, this core here in the centre is marrying up with the engine effects. You can faintly make out the blue dot illumination just with the light hitting the top of the ship at the moment. And we go to the underside before I rotate it up. You can see that blue dot illumination a lot clearer here. And again, it does marry up to the starfield at the back. And just also here, we've got this lovely orange deflector pattern here on the underside. And then we've got more of the grey and purple shading on the underside of the ship. So for the engine trails, they match beautifully to the effect the shield is putting on the ship. So we have the cyan impulse trail and the yellow trail from the nacelles. Next up, we have the Ferengi Vanity shield. So we have the orange hull shading from the Ferengi vessels we've seen in TV shows. We've also got some grey shading and some gold shading as well. If I zoom right in, we see this rivet detail on the hull material as well. Then we have the yellow pattern effect there for the Zhat collectors, the yellow pattern there for the impulse engines, and then we've got this very light yellow illumination here at the front. And we've got the lighter yellow there for the cell colouring. There's the impulse colouring there, and again that core marries up with the warp and impulse engine effects. Let's look down, again some more of that grey shading here at the rear, and a lot more of that rivet pattern detail is also present. And got some more of the gold and grey shading there on the underside, and then we have that deep yellow pattern effect there for the deflector. Then for the engine trails, they do marry up quite nicely. And if the nacelle ones had just been a smidge lighter, I think it would have been perfect, but it's not bad at all at that. Up next is the Hur'q Vanity Shield. So we have this green hull material with this purple shading. There's also this illuminated green material here as well. We'll zoom in to get a better look at the detail. You can also see this black shading giving this textured effect to the hull material as well. They've greyed out the light on the front here, And we see this green for the Bassard collectors and the impulse engine effect there. Then we've got the green on the nacelles with more of that textured material there. In the rear we've got the green for the impulse engines, quite a lot more of this illuminated green panelling as well, and the core is representing the two engine colours as well. Then we've got some more of that on the panel here on the side. And this green and almost purplish kind of part material here at the rear and at the front as well. And for the underside, quite a bit more of that illuminated green panel material there. And then we've got that pattern deflector effect there as well. And some more of that shading giving that textured look to the hull material. Then for the engine trails in this one, for some weird reason, they are yellow. Thought it would have been green, but unfortunately not. Next up, we are looking at the Kelvin Divergence Vanity Shield. So, like Discovery 1, this one does have two different visual appearances, depending if you're Federation or Klingon aligned. So for Federation aligned, you get the appearance of the Starfleet vessels in the reboot films. So with this grey patterned hull material. Again, we've got the white light here at the front. Then we've got the orange effect there for the impulse engines. And normally, I moan about the Bassard collector effect of this shield. But as we can see, this is one of the few ship models where this doesn't actually look that bad. So that's supposed to be reminiscent of the Bassard collector effect on the Kelvin in the first reboot film. And you also see that in the video that I did on the Einstein class, aka USS Kelvin. So as we rotate round, we are seeing this blue with a touch of white there for the nacelle colouring. And I say that orange pattern effect there for the impulse engines. And again, the core mirrors the engine effects there. And then the underside, we have this blue pattern deflector array. That's supposed to represent that we've seen on the Enterprise in the reboot films. There's quite a nice design to it. So still can't get over the fact I've actually stuck that on the bottom of the ship. It's just that grey pattern hull material throughout the rest of the ship. So the actual material itself isn't that exciting. On this one, it's very standard for Federation ships. And then for the engine trails, we have again the Federation reddish orange and blue. So again, just lightening those two on this particular ship, and shield would have worked very well. Here we have the Kelvin Divergence Vanity Shield on a Klingon character. You can see the different shades of green for the hull material, with this yellow illumination at the front, and again we can see that there at the back. And we're greyed out at the front, touch more of that yellow illumination there. Then we have the yellow for the Bassard collectors, and the red honeycomb there as the impulse engine effect. Within the cells themselves, we've got the blue with the grey honeycomb outline. There's those red impulse engines there. Again, that centre core bit's mimicking quite nicely. And more of that yellow illumination there at the back. You see some touches of grey there as well. And then we have this lovely red patterned deflector here on the bottom. I still think that would have looked a lot better being that full shape at the front of the ship here. Then engine trail wise, so it's a standard Starfleet ones. Again, if that blue had been slightly lighter, I think that would have worked better. So next up we're looking at the Prodigy Vanity Shield. So this is becoming one of my favourite shields. Can't stand the show that it's from, but the grey of the hull material and the pattern effects I really do like. And if we zoom in a bit closer, you can see that patterned material there. As we rotate it down, so again we've got that white light at the front there. We've got the blue and white pattern effect there for the Bussard collectors, and then this reddish colour here for the impulse engines. The cells themselves are a mixture of the dark and light blue. Then we have the red of the impulse engines there, and again that core in the mirror in the cell and the impulse engine colouring. And more of that lovely grey hull material there on the underside. And then we have this pattern deflector with the orange and white and yellow to it. The engine trail wise, yeah, very, very close to the effect that the shield's putting on. So we have the colours available, so why they can't marry these up with other shields that have very similar engine colouring is a bit of a mystery, unfortunately. Next up is another popular shield in the game. This is the Section 31 Vanity Shield. So a couple of different shades for the hull material, plus this stripe pattern material as well. See, the red is standing out quite nice against the hull material on this shield as well. Again, we've got that white light at the front there. You'll notice that the Bussard collectors are blacked out on this shield. Then we have the red honeycomb pattern there of the impulse engines. The very bright cyan there for the cell colouring. Say the red honeycomb and the impulse, and then again that centre core just mirroring what the engines are doing there. And the underside mirrors that of the top. A touch more of the stripe material. Then we've got that nice deflector array pattern there with the cyan lighting. Then for the engine trails in this one, and fairly close. Yeah, if that had been just a touch more red than the orange, I think that would have worked even better. And here we have the Shrike Vanity Shield. So we've got this orange hull material and this burgundy shading as well. Then the red lines seem a bit more peach to me. Don't know if it's just my monitor or my eyesight starting to go. Again, white on the front of the ship there. And then for the Bizarre collectors, we have some orange, yellow and white effect. Then impulse engines have this light orange and red pattern that we'll see better in a moment at the back of the ship. Then we have the orange there of the nacelle colouring. And there's that patterned impulse engine effect. Again, the core in the middle there mirrors beautifully what we're applying to the engines. Let's look down. We can also see some touches of grey there for the hull material. And then somebody decided to paint a target on the underside of the ship with that deflector. First time I seen that on a Federation ship, I thought it was quite comical. Put a target on your vessel for the enemy to aim at. How very accommodating of the Federation. And then engine trail wise on this one. So we have red coming from the orange nacelles, and we have yellow coming from the orange and red impulse engines. It's a bold choice, that one. So this is the Tzenkethi Vanity shield, and as I normally say, it's an extremely busy shield with the amount of detail that they put into this one. So we'll start off with the hull material. So we have the green, the grey, the black, and then we also have this illuminated panel material as well that we'll get a closer look at in a moment. We also have the carved pattern within the hull material. And you'll notice on the sides here we have flashing white lights on this one. So we'll zoom in a bit closer to this panel lighting material. Again, we'll see quite a few pieces of it pulsating. You can see it through the gap here as well. Again, it's round the saucer, so there's a lot going on with the design of this shield. We have a pulsating white on the front of the ship as well. It's a nice beacon. Then for the Bizarre collectors, we have white with a pattern effect, and then we have white for the impulse engine effect there. Again, we can see a lot of that illuminated panel material covering quite a large portion of the ship there. Then we have white here for the nacelles. Again, that central core area mirroring in the engine effects. Then we have this pulsating red light on the back here. So we won't know if the ship's actually applying its brakes or not. We'll just have to guess. Then we have this orange pattern effect here as well at the rear. There's quite a lot of detail in this shield. I don't particularly like it to apply to a ship, but I do appreciate the details that went into it. Then we have this lovely warm orange effect here for the deflector. Again, a lot more of that pulsating panel lighting there. More of the carved pattern there on the underside. And we can see a bit of a pattern here with the greys and green at the front. Then for engine trails, we actually have white, and it matches the engine effect of the shield. So all in all, I'll say this shield has been excellently done. with the level of detail, the fact that we've got the engine trails marrying up with the engine effects, and then just the little pulsating light details as well. And last but not least, it's the Zhat Vash Vanity Shield, or as I call it, the Army Camouflage. So we have the different shades there of the olive green, and we've got the sandy brown material as well, and with the pattern effect, as I've said before, always puts me in mind of an Army Camouflage. Also see some touches of grey there as well. Again, we've got that white light at the front. Then we've got this green and white patterned Bassard collector with the red there of the impulse engines as well. We have the very bright green cell colouring there. And there's those lovely red impulse engines. And again, that central core area just mirroring the engineering effects of the ship's engines. And again, we've got all this illumination of the nacelle colouring all the way around these pylons here. A touch more grey there on the underside for the hull material. Then we've got that lovely green patterned deflector array as well. And engine trail wise is the only thing that lets down the effect of this shield, because we're back to the standard rusty orange and the blue there of the Federation. And that concludes the look at the Tucker class. So thank you all very much for watching. Do remember to like and subscribe, as it helps the channel out, and we are getting very close to the first milestone on YouTube. So onto the links in the description that I mentioned at the start there. So first off, I have my real merch link that gives you 5% off your first order. Also got links to my Blue Sky and X accounts there, so you want to reach out on social media, feel free to do so. Also have links there to the STO wiki, and a link there for the main Star Trek Online news blog as well. And then for other content, I have Casual Sab, Nick NB, MC Stu, the Mutara Alliance, and Thornburg Media. I have all their Twitch or YouTube or both links in the description there. So, well worth a check out if you haven't already done so. Drop them a like and a sub. As I say, it helps them out, and just as a like and a sub helps me out. So, until the next live stream or the next video, thank you all again for watching.